Though states apart, their stories sound so similar. 3 young men eagerly starting college. 3 bright futures cut short inside a fraternity.
Our son was hazed to death.
He was hazed.
I don't know what else you would have called it.
But the outcomes of those cases look dramatically different. So let's verify.
Are hazing laws the same across the country? Our sources: 4 parents, 3 attorneys, a police chief, a professor, and the head of an interfraternity organization. On November 11, 2019, Sam Martinez, a freshman at Washington State University, showed up at his fraternity for a pledge event.
They were forced into taking pulls off of a half-gallon of rum.
Jolene and Hector's son was found unresponsive in the frat house basement the next morning. His blood alcohol content was 5 times the legal limit.
And Sam died on their watch.
This June, more than a year and a half later, 15 members of Sam's fraternity were charged with furnishing liquor to minors, a gross misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to a year in jail, but with no criminal record, attorneys tell me those young men likely won't serve a day behind bars.
What went through your mind?
It was slap on the face.
Washington does have an anti-hazing law, but it's an even lesser charge, just a standard misdemeanor, the same you'd receive for stealing a shopping cart.
If hazing were a felony in Washington, would the investigation have looked different?
I think it would have.
That's Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins.
If hazing was a felony, I think we might see a hazing charge against one or more individuals.
That's happened in other states. In 2017, Andrew Coffey, a student at Florida State University, died of alcohol poisoning during a similar pledge event at his fraternity.
It was hazing.
That's his mother, Sandy.
That's what killed him.
In Florida, hazing is a felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, and prosecutors brought that charge against 9 members of Andrew's fraternity. As of last month, all 9 have pled guilty, 2 to felony charges, 7 to misdemeanors. All of them are going to jail for somewhere between 30 days and a year. Jack Campbell prosecuted the case.
Did the felony hazing law impact Andrew's case?
I can only assume that the possible sanction of up to 5 years in prison factored into their decision to both take responsibility, go to jail.
At least somebody's accountable.
Florida is one of only 14 states that have passed a felony hazing law. 30, including Washington, have made it a misdemeanor, and 6 states don't have any anti-hazing law on the books.
What do you think of that?
I think it's an injustice.
Attorney Doug Fearberg specializes in hazing cases.
It's always been about boys being boys. These are all real wrongdoings that need to be properly punished.
A 2008 survey found 55% of college students face some form of hazing.
We're looking at 275 hazing deaths since 1838.
Professor Hank Newer at Franklin College tracks U.S. hazing deaths. The past decade, we're averaging close to 5 each year.
Does it look like hazing is slowing down at all?
No, it does not.
Right now, organizers are trying to pass felony hazing laws in several states. Ohio just passed a new law last week. Kathleen Wyant led that effort. In 2018, her son Colin died in his fraternity house at Ohio University.
He was coerced to do a whippet, which is nitrous oxide, like laughing gas. And when he inhaled it, he immediately fell over. There's a 12-minute delay before 911 was called.
9 members of his fraternity were charged with misdemeanor hazing. No one spent more than 30 days in jail.
Just really a slap on the wrist.
Colin's law, as it's known, would make hazing a felony if someone gets hurt and would require schools to better educate and report those incidents. Kathleen tried to get it passed last year, then COVID hit.
My fear was if we didn't get it through at that point, that there would be another hazing death in the state of Ohio. We did not get it through in time, and just months later, there was another horrible tragedy in the state of Ohio.
In March, 20-year-old Stone Foltz died during a fraternity pledge event at Bowling Green State University. 8 of his classmates are now charged.
We can't let another family or another student go through this again.
Once they reach state legislatures, these felony hazing laws are passing nearly unanimously. We couldn't find any organized opposition.
Does the NIC support these felony hazing laws?
Absolutely.
Judson Horace heads the North American Interfraternity Conference, which represents 6,000 fraternity chapters across the country.
We think individual accountability has been missing. We've got to strengthen the laws like we did with drunk driving laws to make that type of difference in hazing.
2020 was the first year without a recorded hazing death in 6 decades, but COVID curbed much of college life.
What do we have in the fall coming up? 2 freshman classes in effect.
Do you think this is a particularly dangerous year for hazing?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So we can verify hazing laws are not the same across the country, and as a result, the penalties aren't either.
At a bare minimum, we need to make hazing a felony in Washington.
Jolene and Hector Martinez hope that will be part of Sam's legacy.
I think every day about saving one life.
With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.